Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Nightfall Terrors. I know many of you enjoy using these videos to help you fall asleep, so before you start to drift off, it would be great if you could leave a comment sharing where you're listening from around the world. If you're enjoying the episodes, don't forget to like and subscribe as well. Now, let's get cozy, settle in, and begin. I thought a coworker was stealing my lunch. I was very wrong. I used to be just a regular guy, someone you'd work with, maybe share an apartment with, or go hiking on the weekends. I had a decent job, a steady routine, and the usual case of Sunday dread living in a big city. At least, I was that guy. Now, I'm constantly hungry, and no matter what I do, I can't make it stop. I always prioritized my health. My dad's been battling cancer, and my mom deals with mental health issues. So I figured my best defense was keeping my body in the best shape I could. My diet was clean: oatmeal and eggs in the morning, lean meat midday, and rice with chicken at night. It wasn't exciting, but it gave me peace of mind. Was I in peak shape? Not really. I had my cheat moments: late night takeout, pizza at the office, the occasional few beers after a long hike. I'd knocked out most of the New Hampshire 4,000 footers, but I was never trying to be a bodybuilder. Just your average weekend outdoorsman. One weekend, I talked my friends Patrick and Rachel, recently married, into joining me for an easy trail, just 3 miles round trip, low elevation. They brought along a friend of theirs, Emma, someone I'd met a couple of times at group dinners. Emma was cool, easy to talk to, outgoing, and famous in our group for this incredible mac and cheese she made. I once brought homemade kimchi dumplings to a potluck, and they went untouched while everyone cleaned out her tray. I had to ask, "Emma," I said, "why won't anyone touch my dumplings?" She smiled and replied, "Let me try one." I held one up with a chopstick, moving it toward her, and that's when her smile vanished. She grabbed my wrist. "What's in this?" she asked. "Just kimchi." The room went quiet. Rachel looked stunned. "Don't you know Emma's allergic to pickles?" A pickle allergy. That was new to me. After that hike and potluck, Emma and I started talking more. Over time, we got together. It wasn't immediate. We had some long talks about her possibly moving back to Europe, her struggles with anxiety and insomnia, but she was fun and thoughtful. It just worked. Things were good. We did the usual couple stuff: drinks, movies, even ceramics classes. We hiked too, and I was surprised by how well she handled some of the steeper trails. But then, something shifted. After one hike, we stopped for burgers. I couldn't finish mine and offered her the rest. "Are you sure?" she asked. "I don't want to get hurt again." "Hurt?" I said. "It's just a burger." "You wouldn't understand," she replied. "Are you sure you want to share food with me? There's no going back." I laughed. "Go for it." She ate it like she hadn't eaten in days. Burger, fries, all of it gone in minutes. It was the first time I'd seen her eat something I hadn't cooked. I didn't think much of it then, but the next week, something weird started happening at work. My meal prep containers looked nearly empty. My turkey, gone. The cod I'd baked, mostly eaten, save for a few clean bites. I assumed someone at the office was helping themselves, so I set a trap, filled a container with blue paint, and left it in the fridge. No one touched the fridge all day, but when I checked later, the container was spotless, no paint, nothing left inside. That's when things got unsettling. At home, the same started happening. I'd crack open eggs and find only shells. My overnight oats were gone by morning. Rice in the pressure cooker turned to ash. Meat shriveled the second my fork touched it. Protein bar wrappers from the store came sealed, but were empty. Emma began complimenting how lean I looked. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to stress her out more than she already was. I tried ordering out, spent $100 on delivery. Food arrived, bag was sealed, but completely empty inside. Went apple picking. Every apple looked normal, but had been hollowed out like sponge. I felt drained. I started spending more time in my room. Emma told me I probably just needed to eat more, said I was hiking too hard. I couldn't tell if she was pretending not to see what was happening, or if she genuinely didn't notice. Weeks went by. I lost so much weight that my own reflection looked unfamiliar. If my mom saw me, she'd have cried. I still had a packet of frozen kimchi from that potluck, so I decided to make dumplings again for Rachel and Patrick's fall get-together. By then, I was barely holding myself together. My wrists were bony, my eyes sunken, and my chest felt fragile. Emma said I looked focused, like my clean eating was finally paying off. That night I made the dumplings and went to sleep. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to coughing from the kitchen. I turned off all the lights before bed, so this wasn't normal. I grabbed a flashlight and followed the sound. The coughing didn't sound like an adult. It was weak, rough, like a child struggling to breathe. As I turned the corner, I saw her dot Emma, but not as I'd known her. Her skin was covered in red patches. She was crouched by the freezer, holding one of the dumplings. Her eyes locked on mine. "You didn't say they had pickles," she whispered. Then she screamed. Flames erupted from her body, but it wasn't like a house fire. It was light, searing heat, a powerful burst. She stood there, shrieking, mouth wide in a silent scream, as the fire consumed her. The force pushed me back. When it was over, she was gone. Only a scorched outline remained on the floor. That was the last time I saw her. But the hunger didn't stop. My food still disappears. Every time. Except for the kimchi. It's the only thing that's ever left untouched. I eat what I can, but it's never enough. I've lost so much weight I can't work. I barely leave my bed. If you message me next week, I probably won't be around. I see them now, at night. Shadows in the kitchen. Flickers of movement by the office fridge. Shapes in the corner of my eye. Whatever they are, they eat. When I'm not looking. If you've got any high-calorie meals with kimchi, send them my way. Before I disappear completely. See me 1 week. It's been exactly 1 week since everything changed. Again, and not in a good way. Something isn't right, either with this house or with me. I'm 24. I live alone. No girlfriend, no close friends, no family, except a brother, since our dad passed a few months ago. I've been completely on my own. My brother lives in Florida. We haven't spoken since the funeral. We were never close. Still, when this all started happening, I reached out. I texted. I called. Nothing. No reply. He's the only person left who could have heard me out. But I know he wants nothing to do with me. I truly believe he blames me for Dad's death. I was supposed to be home that night. I wasn't. After work, I went to the cemetery. I stayed there for hours, drunk. I only woke up when my phone rang. It was my brother, crying, panicked. "Where are you, Michael?" His voice was loud enough to make my ears ring. The sky was just starting to lighten as the sun rose. Before I could answer, he said, "Dad's dead. The house caught fire. Why weren't you there? You know he can't be alone." What the hell were you doing? I remember the tears coming right away. The realization hit like a punch. I felt paralyzed. I don't understand. What happened? That old dog knocked over the kerosene heater. It got excited or something. That's what caused the fire. How do you know that? Fire marshal said it's the only explanation. Dad couldn't have done it. He was bedridden. Now answer me. Where were you? Where are you? Right now. His tone softened slightly. "I'm at the cemetery," I whispered. "You've got to be kidding me," he said. "This is your fault. The house is gone. Everything. Because you can't let go. I bet you're still drunk, aren't you?" I didn't respond. He already knew. Unbelievable. "I'll take care of the arrangements. Don't worry about a thing. You pathetic drunk." His voice cracked. I heard him sniffle, then sigh deeply. Then the line went dead. I dropped my phone. Tears rolled freely. The birds were chirping. The wind felt soft on my skin, almost like it was trying to comfort me. I looked down. There was a cold spot on my pants. A stain. I'd pissed myself. Just a few feet away was the nearly empty whiskey bottle. I picked it up and finished what was left, then got in my car. Every night since has been the same, crying until I can't anymore, drinking more than I should. Work, drink, cry, repeat. The grief and pain seem to blend into one endless blur, like trying to paint over a rain-soaked canvas with colors that just won't stay. The picture is always the same. Loss. Being a broken version of myself, isolated and hollow, had become the norm. But when I saw it that first time, I thought maybe it meant something. Now, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm imagining things. Maybe something's messing with me. Or maybe it's real. Either way, every time it happens, my heart stops. And there's nothing I can do, unless I needed someone else to witness it. My brother was out of the question. Too far, too indifferent. I needed someone, anyone. So I ordered a pizza. I was hungry anyway. Then I stood at the door, my back facing the rest of the house. Knock, knock, knock. They were here. I didn't move until the second knock. Then I opened the door. The delivery guy smiled. "Hey there, how you doing?" I stepped back and opened the door fully, eyes red, jaw tight. "Fine," I muttered. "All right, that'll be $20.95. I pulled out my wallet, but before handing over the cash, I looked up. "Do you see it?" He raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me. You see it, right?" He chuckled nervously. "I'm not sure what you mean. $20.95, please." Behind me, in the window. "You see it, don't you?" He tilted his head, visibly unsure. No. I don't see anything." I clenched the two $20 bills in my hand. My eyes welled up again. He glanced behind me, then froze. "Please," I begged. "You have to see it. Look again. Please." Tears dripped onto the bills. My hand started to shake. "Listen, man. I don't have time for this. Just pay so I can..." He stopped mid-sentence, and when I saw his face, I knew. His eyes had gone blank, just like mine had the first time I saw it. His expression turned cold, rigid. He yanked the money from my hand, shoved the pizza box into my arms. "Wait," I called out. He didn't respond. He ran. I followed him outside, shouting, "Please, come back. You saw it." But he kept going, got into his car. The tires screeched as he tore down the street, speeding away into the fading light. He saw it. I know he did. I stood there, frozen. The world had gone quiet. Even the bugs had stopped buzzing. With my back still to the house, I felt the weight of everything behind me. The windows, the doors, the walls, the roof, the ground beneath it, the chimney, even the bats above. It all pressed on me like a massive shadow, dense and unmoving. So I turned around, and there she was, in the window of the front door, perfectly visible, surrounded by darkness, crying. I cried too. The pizza fell from my arms. My hands were drenched in sweat. And just then, I understood. My phone rang, loud in my pocket. I fumbled to answer it with slippery fingers. It was my brother. His voice was broken. "Michael," he was crying. "Mom's gone. She's gone, Mike." Something was in the room with me. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, but I could feel it, standing just beyond the edge of my bed. I used to think things like this only happened to other people. Stories you hear in whispers or read in odd headlines. Never something I'd experience. But I was wrong. This isn't a story. This really happened. My name is Nova. I'm 17, 18 in a few days. And lately, I've been counting down the hours until I can disappear. Home doesn't feel safe anymore. My parents fight constantly, like it's a habit they can't quit. Silence shatters like glass in our house, and every word they throw feels like it's cutting someone, even if they forget who. I needed space, just a break. Aunt Carol offered her home, a quiet place outside the city. She said I could stay as long as I needed to feel better. I trusted her. She welcomed me with her usual warmth, a floral apron, the smell of lavender in the air. Inside, she introduced me to a boy, Lucas, 8 years old, small, delicate, already distant. "He's Patty's grandson," she said, "my childhood friend. I'm helping watch him." Lucas barely acknowledged me. He drooled quietly and stared right through me, like he was trying to remember what being a kid felt like. There was something missing in his eyes. I tried not to judge. Carol mentioned they were still waiting for a diagnosis. Nobody was really sure what was going on with him. At least, that's what she said. That evening, the three of us ate dinner together. Lucas sat across from me, spoon in hand, barely moving. Then, suddenly, he spoke. "Have you seen it?" he asked. Behind the curtain, I paused. "Seen what?" Before he could say more, Carol jumped in with a too bright smile. "Would you like some orange juice, dear?" I shook my head. "No, I'm fine." The moment passed. The topic never came back up. That was the last time I saw Lucas. That night, I woke to a faint banging noise. A slow, steady thump against my wall. My bedroom wall. Lucas's voice followed, quiet and rhythmic, like he was whispering some kind of prayer from underwater. He'd acted strangely before, but this felt different. He didn't sound like he was just next door. Still, I did nothing. I told myself it wasn't my place. I rolled over and tried to sleep. By morning, he was gone. Carol was cheerful in the kitchen, offering me scrambled eggs with a smile that didn't quite seem real. "This is Oliver," she said, pointing to a new boy. "Patty's nephew. I'll be looking after him for a bit." I blinked. "Where's Lucas?" "With Patty," she replied quickly. She couldn't handle both at once. It made some sense. Patty was older, frail, and tired-looking. Oliver, unlike Lucas, was full of energy. "Where are the toys?" he asked. Carol laughed and guided him away, her hand on his back. I hadn't even been here 2 full days, and already things felt strange. Later that afternoon, I spotted a man outside, just standing and staring. I'd seen him earlier, walking slowly down the block. His clothes were torn, hair a mess, and his skin looked gray, like he hadn't felt sunlight in years. He never blinked, never looked away. Carol called him a troubled addict, but when I stepped outside later, he called to me. His voice was low, urgent. I didn't go. I regret that. The next morning, I ran into Oliver in the hallway. He looked different. Pale skin, mouth hanging open, a string of drool on his chin. His eyes, they were the same ones I'd seen before. He wasn't the same boy. "Leave," he whispered. That's all he said. Then Carol showed up, beaming. "Oh, there you are, Oliver," she said sweetly. "Time for breakfast. If you don't eat, you won't be ready." She glanced at me as she walked away. "You coming?" I followed. I didn't know it then, but that was the last normal moment I'd have. The day passed quietly. That night I lay in bed, reading under the soft glow of the lamp. The house was still. The only sound was the clock ticking, a silence so deep it felt like it was listening. In the far corner sat a chair facing the bed. I didn't remember placing it there. The clock read 9:45 p.m. Then, time moved without notice. Now, it was 12:15 a.m. The lamp was off, the room darker. My book was closed, my glasses placed neatly on the nightstand. I had fallen asleep on my back, breath slow and shallow. But the dark felt heavier now, like it had a purpose. Then, the door creaked closed. The sound snapped my eyes open, but nothing else moved. I was paralyzed. No motion, no voice, just the terrible knowledge. I was awake, and something didn't want me to be. I recognized the feeling, sleep paralysis. But this didn't feel like sleep anymore, and I knew, deep down, this was real. I was trapped in my own body. I tried to move my hand. It twitched, but didn't lift. I tried to speak. Nothing. Panic spread slowly, my chest tight. My eyes were the only part of me that worked, so I used them. They darted around the room, searching, right, then left, and then, snap, the curtain over the closet. It jerked sharply, swinging like something had just pushed through it. No breeze, no movement elsewhere, but it had definitely moved. Silence returned. I stared, my eyes wide, fixed. Then, behind the curtain, something stepped forward. Slowly, feet first, then hands, then a dark torso, the face still hidden. I wanted to shut my eyes, to disappear, but I couldn't. Then, from the left, crack, a sharp, sudden noise. I looked quickly. Nothing, just the dark pressing closer. When I looked back, the figure was gone. The curtain hung still, like nothing had ever moved, but I knew something had. The silence grew heavier. Where was it now? I didn't know. I didn't want to. My breath came faster. Sweat gathered on my brow. My eyes darted, scanning every shadow. The feeling was still there, that something wrong was in the room. Suddenly, my body shot upright, soaked in sweat. I gasped. My chest heaved. I was awake, fully this time. A dream, I told myself. Just a dream. Again and again. I panted. My shirt stuck to my skin. I dragged a hand down my face, trying to catch my breath. Relief began to settle in, until I turned to my left. Shape. A figure under the blanket beside me, not moving. It wasn't over. I didn't scream. I didn't speak. I just leaned closer. Slowly, carefully, I reached forward, hand shaking. I lifted the blanket, bit by bit, and found nothing. The bed was empty. Then, shh, the chair in the corner scraped across the floor. I turned. It looked recently empty. Every nerve fired at once. Still, I saw nothing. Just the shadows reaching. Then, breathing. Soft. Too close. Right beside me. I turned my head. And there it was. The thing. The presence. The something that wears your sleep paralysis like a mask. Its face was inches from mine. Not smiling. Not growling. Just staring. Waiting. That was last night. I haven't slept since. If I make it through tonight, I'll tell you what happens next. I burned for 16 days. My cousin once told me something that stuck with me. I don't believe in hell, he said. People can adapt to any kind of pain, even start to find a meaning in it. I've thought about that a lot. As long as our brains can make sense of what's around us, we can learn to accept almost anything. If you've spent enough time online, you've seen just how twisted people's preferences can become. I don't think I'm any different. It started in 2016. I was in my second year, working as a lab assistant at a pharmaceutical company. A big one in the Midwest. You'd probably recognize the blue sunflower logo. The pay was low, but the benefits made up for it. Life was mostly just work, sleep, repeat. I lived on the 3rd floor of a newer apartment building. It had a large elevator and glossy hallways. The complex had a deal with our employer, discounted rent for employees, so it turned into part living space, part workplace hangout. At first, I thought I'd hate it, but it grew on me. Then came the fire. I don't know how it started. It tore through the 1st floor quickly. I had just stepped out of the shower when the alarm went off. I barely had time to throw on a towel. The flames spread faster than I could think. You don't notice the heat first. You notice how the air feels thinner, harder to breathe. It was hot enough to blister skin just by stepping into the hallway. I tried to get downstairs, but my neighbor locked himself and his family inside. The last I saw of them, they were peeking at me as their door closed, flames reflecting in their eyes. I didn't get far. Smoke changed everything. I couldn't tell where I was. I lost my bearings. I knocked on doors, desperate for help, but no one answered. I ended up slumped against the elevator, the hot metal searing through the skin of my hand. Your throat closes. Boils break across your arms like a rash. And before you black out, there's a strange clarity. You don't panic. You separate from the moment, like it's not real. It feels too foreign, too impossible to accept. That's what it felt like, dying for the first time. I must have been out for half a minute before firefighters pulled me out, wrapped in a blanket. I had second-degree burns across most of my body, third degree in some places. The worst ones didn't hurt. Nerve endings were gone. You only feel them again when they start to heal. Waking up didn't feel real. I thought the lights were off. I didn't realize my head was fully wrapped. I couldn't feel much thanks to strong painkillers and a generous health plan. Someone was talking nearby, but I could barely hear. My eardrum had ruptured. My left ear had fused to my head. "Oh, thank God," someone said. "You're going to make it." My sister, Sammy. She'd flown in from Ottawa. The next few days were a blur. I drifted in and out. I had nightmares about pain and fear of the medication wearing off. Machines beeped. A nurse changed my bandages once, and the pain made me black out mid-scream. Sometimes I'd catch a moment of reality. A voice in the hall, Sammy on the phone, sunlight sneaking through the gauze over my eyes. I prayed to feel nothing, because if I felt anything, it would be agony. My body was trying to fix itself all at once, but it kept hitting a wall. One night, someone came into the room. They spoke quietly to Sammy. She cried. Later, someone else arrived. Her tone changed. It sounded like hope. "Please," she said, "do whatever it takes." They wheeled me out. I felt the breeze outside. It stung like sandpaper on my exposed skin. I heard Sammy's voice trailing behind. "We'll take care of him." Then the sting of a needle, and nothing. I woke up a day and a half later in a different room. No bandages on my face, just a soft gray film over one eye. I blinked and instinctively reached up to brush it away. My arm was coated in something dark and thick, like ink, but pliable. I barely felt it. It covered my entire body, even my eyes, but it didn't block my vision. The closer you looked, the more see-through it became. There was no pain. I could move easily. I sat up and pulled out some IVs. As I moved, the dark film dried up and sank into my skin. No sensation, just gone, like dew drying on grass. A nurse rushed in with Sammy right behind her, but when they saw me upright, the room changed. The panic faded. Sammy looked worn out, thin hair, heavy eyes, but when she saw me, her face lit up. She rushed over to hug me but stopped herself. "Can I?" she asked. "Are you okay?" "I think so," I said. We hugged. Over her shoulder, I noticed someone in a suit waiting outside the room. If this seems confusing, believe me, I was just as lost. Information was limited. I heard the name Black Bell and something about a super adaptive nanoliquid. Sammy had approved a new treatment. I was already flagged as a candidate, probably due to my employment record and the confidentiality agreements. There were conditions, regular checkups and participation in their testing. I could opt out, but doing so might reverse the recovery. It didn't feel like a real choice. Still, I didn't hold it against them. I could walk again. That was worth signing a few forms. When I returned to work a few weeks later, people whispered. Some said the treatment came from one of our Vietnam labs. I'd seen the name in internal memos linked to vacuum therapy and low oxygen environments, but I had no idea it could heal burns. Some coworkers didn't believe I'd even been in a fire. They thought I'd just taken leave after the apartment incident. I could have shown them pictures, but somehow that would have made it feel less real. I let them believe what they wanted. Management knew the truth, so I eased back into my old life. Work, sleep, repeat. Sammy stayed close by to help me settle in. Things mostly went back to normal, but not everything on the surface shows what's really going on. At night, I'd lie awake, imagining the pain hiding under my skin. What if the treatment failed? What if it wore off suddenly? Could one misstep undo all of it? I couldn't sleep. I'd stare at the ceiling, feeling the phantom heat. My skin burning, hairs curling away, pieces of me turning to ash. The memory wouldn't let go. 2 weeks in, I had my first panic attack. Someone brought a birthday cake to the office. As the candles flickered, I felt something shift inside me. That warm glow reflecting on their faces. It threw me back. Suddenly, I couldn't breathe. My skin itched like it remembered being on fire. I quietly declined the cake, walked to the bathroom, and threw up. I curled up on the floor, eyes shut tight, but the pain wasn't in my body. It was in my mind, a heat I couldn't escape. You can't reason your way out of a panic attack. You just wait and hope it ends quickly. That night, over dinner, Sammy decided to stay a few extra weeks. I hadn't asked, but she didn't mind. She'd made baked potatoes. I hadn't bought the proper dishes yet, so we ate on paper plates with plastic forks. One bare bulb lit the kitchen. "You talk in your sleep," she said, checking the oven. "I hear it through the walls. What do I say?" "It's not really words," she replied. "More like long sounds. But it almost sounds like speech. I'll try to keep it down." She gave me a sympathetic look. She understood I had no control over it, and that even if I tried, it wouldn't matter. Still, the thought was appreciated. But things only got worse. Nightmares started hitting harder. I'd wake up gasping for air, feeling my skin grow hot in the dark. Anxiety would flare up without warning, wrecking whatever sense of calm I had managed to build. It could strike instantly and linger all day. Before long, bad days became routine. Good ones were the exception. One evening on my drive home, I stopped at a red light. My hands were on the wheel, the radio playing in the background. The host chuckled, saying he was about to play some classic dad rock for a caller. Hotter Than Hell by Kiss. It's a decent track, but it pulled me into a dark memory. I stared at that glowing red light, dreading the yellow one. That specific shade reminded me of being back in that hallway, thrashing on the floor, the skin on my palm sizzling against the hot metal of the elevator door. I closed my eyes and felt it. A soft cooling layer across my skin. The treatment. Still working. Still there. Someone honked. Maybe the light had turned green. I couldn't check. I couldn't open my eyes. What if it hurt? What if everything had gone dark? I was paralyzed by what-ifs, clenching the wheel tightly with closed eyes. Then, a flicker. Like I'd summoned it, something sparked on my skin. Fire. From the outside, it must have looked like an explosion. Air rushed out, windows shattered, and the car lit up in flames. The pain was indescribable. I couldn't even scream. A single flame danced across my closed eyelids as they fused shut. Nerves lit up in agony. My knuckles burned down to bone. It happened fast, like someone was switching off senses inside my head. Sight, smell, hearing, taste, touch, thought. One by one, there was no air left to breathe, no sense of position. Was I standing, sitting? No way to tell. They say I was fully engulfed for about 2 minutes before someone managed to pull me out. I was drenched in a black liquid, which onlookers mistook for motor oil. They rolled me onto the pavement, smothering the fire. The treatment kept me alive, but just barely. It refused to let me die, trapping me in pain. Those moments dragged on like a lifetime. Eventually, the sirens came. EMTs would later witness what they called a second miraculous recovery from severe burns. Just days later, I walked out of the hospital physically untouched, no questions asked. The treatment had reset my body, though mentally I was far from okay. Firefighters were baffled, but the corporation understood. Apparently, my obsession with fire had triggered the treatment to adapt. My constant thoughts of burning had somehow convinced the system that fire was my normal. In short, it interpreted my mental state as a request and granted it. Understanding the cause helped, but only slightly. It's hard to stop your mind from drifting toward forbidden thoughts. The more you try not to think about it, the worse it gets, just like biting your nails. The effort not to do it feeds the urge. Knowing that a stray thought could ignite a blaze only made the obsession more powerful. Still, Sammy stuck around. She helped to figure out ways to ease the stress. I started sleeping in the bathtub. We removed anything flammable. No curtains, no plastics. We kept a fire blanket nearby. It wasn't comfortable, but you learn to adapt. Just having precautions helped calm the mind a little. I went to weekly checkups. They had me fill out forms, scales from 1 to 10, from rarely to often. Most of the questions were generic, but a few were clearly just for me. There was no answer key, just an overpaid researcher rattling off questions with a rehearsed smile. A different face each week, but the same detached attitude. I got the impression I wasn't alone in this trial. The questions hinted that others had problems too, but different ones. Things like, how often do you forget to breathe? How often do you forget to sleep? How much has your sense of touch decreased? With answers ranging from hourly to monthly. I made more changes. Fire blankets, extinguishers. One night I even filled the tub with water before bed, sensing a flare-up coming. The ink from my skin would activate, regulating my body temp. It truly was adaptive. Sammy did everything she could, but something she once said stuck with me. One morning, as I got ready for work, she was cleaning out the tub. I asked if it bothered her. It's just like changing a bandage, she said. You have to adjust either way. At least there's no pain, right? Trauma spreads like poison. Bad days become your baseline, and the good ones feel like a distant dream. You chase after those perfect moments, sleeping peacefully, waking up refreshed, remembering a pleasant dream, maybe even putting on clean clothes and feeling like a person again. But I couldn't do any of that. I had to be careful not to trigger another episode. No nice clothes, no contact with family or co-workers, just small sacrifices to keep from becoming a danger to others. Even then, things could spiral. Once, after leaving the supermarket, it hit me again. No warning. Suddenly, flames. I incinerated everything I'd bought. I collapsed in the parking lot, writhing in pain, covered in ash. The burn wasn't deep enough to kill the nerves. I felt every blister. The most humiliating episode happened at work. I sensed it coming and locked myself in the bathroom. When it burst out, the sprinklers kicked in. I got scorched, but not as badly. Still able to walk, but I had to do it naked from the waist down, covered in burns, in front of everyone. After that, I was placed on paid leave. They said we'd work out a care plan with a therapist, but finding someone cleared for this level of secrecy wasn't easy. So I waited. I wandered around, trying not to think too hard, knowing that a single thought could reduce everything to ash. It wore on me, and on Sammy. One night it happened while I was asleep in the tub. A nightmare startled me awake. The room was completely dark. I couldn't see, and convinced myself my eyes were fused shut. Panic set in. I got out of the tub already on fire, shadows dancing around me. Sammy ran in to help, but ended up burning her hands. I pushed her back, accidentally searing her neck. I forced myself into the tub, trying to turn on the water. It's not easy without skin on your fingers. Blood makes things slippery, and those knobs are tricky. The fire alarm was screaming, but Sammy managed to silence it. Neighbors came knocking. She had to send them away, bleeding in pain. I lay in the tub, watching the flames die down. Darkness returned. I locked the door behind me, just wishing the night would end. Things only got harder from there. Sammy didn't want to leave, of course, but seeing her bandaged neck, her hands trembling as she made a sandwich, it was too much. I lied and said the company was sending a live-in caretaker, not completely untrue. It had been mentioned. Once, I waved goodbye from the window as her cab pulled away. She was finally safe, away from me. I tried new ways to manage the anxiety. I went out more. Alcohol helped a little, especially in noisy places, bands playing, strangers laughing. Anything to distract me from the first domino. I thought I could turn it into something fun. One night, drunk, I tried to show it off like a party trick. A few people laughed, thinking I was faking, until I actually set myself on fire. They panicked. They didn't understand. When the treatment coated me in dark fluid, I looked like a corpse made of ash. People screamed. One called the cops. Another passed out. I forced myself to stay upright, knees locked, even as my muscles gave out. My head drooped. I collapsed into a shallow puddle, just an inch deeper, and I would have drowned. But the treatment saved me again. By the time the patrol showed up, I was long gone, leaving behind only burned clothes. That night I came home and thought about my choices. I could keep going, hoping for change. Or I could keep fighting, clawing my way through life on the edge of agony. No matter what I did, the fear never left, always lurking, reminding me I was one breath away from my own personal inferno. I sat on the balcony for a while, watching the stars. There was something comforting in them. They burned too, but unlike me, they never knew anything else. Maybe that's how it should be. The next day I drove out into the desert. I parked the car and left a note that read, "No valuables." I placed the keys beneath the front tire, undressed, and tucked my clothes under the hood to keep them from scorching. I wanted clean clothes to return to, if I returned at all. Then I started walking. The sun pressed against my bare skin, the heat hovering at the edge of my thoughts. "Come on," I whispered. "Come on." I pushed myself to focus. I forced my mind into that place, driving myself into the spiral that waited. "Come on," I pleaded. "Let's get it over with." And when the fire arrived, I felt relief. I didn't resist. Flames sealed my eyes and stole the air from my lungs. My body cracked and split, breaking at the seams with each motion. Your senses disappear. Screaming becomes impossible. The treatment kept me alive, locking me in a cycle of burning and healing. The stench of scorched flesh, ammonia, and singed hair came and went, repeating as my sense of smell flickered. My corneas tried to hold on. A high-pitched ringing would return in waves, pounding in my skull like the ocean crashing. Unending pain, the kind that makes every second feel like forever. But it was too late. No one was coming. What had I done? Taste was nearly gone. Sometimes blood left a metallic tang on my tongue, but it faded quickly. The same was true for touch, either pain or emptiness. Eventually, I gave up trying to breathe. I let my throat stay closed. The treatment sustained me. My heartbeat slowed, adjusted. I realized that with focus, I could trigger small muscle movements during moments of healing. Over time, I could move, barely. I remember lying in the sand. The flashes of light seemed darker. It must have been night. I'd moved my hand into view and saw my fingers. Darkness. Then a faint moonlight. A brief moment of clarity showing a blackened, skeletal hand. Liquefied fat soaking into the scorched sand. Thinking was hard. Even my brain was damaged. Long periods passed where I felt something locking my thoughts behind a mental gate. I couldn't recall my name. Only short, simple thoughts made it through. Bursts of effort. As my lungs expanded and collapsed, I focused on sounds, vowels mostly. I found two that were easy to repeat, reminders that I was still alive. E and O felt right. Eo, Eo, Eo. With no sight or sound, my mind filled in the blanks. The ringing in my ears started to sound like music, like voices. The flickers of light became angels. I spoke to them, and the pain faded into background noise. An irritation, not a torment. I imagined them beside me. One had a voice like a piano, speaking in sonatas that brought me to tears. Another lay beside me, arms around me, their breath cool on my neck. They told stories of distant places, a beach where no one is lonely, an island with pink sand, a tree stretching toward the moon. Melodies and tales danced in the flames, asking me to stay. My needs slipped away. When you felt everything, there's no reason to want more. What's a glass of water when you're drowning in fire? What's rest when sleep brings no escape? I surrendered, embraced the agony. It was simple. Over time, I learned to control it, like flipping switches. Keep the eyes off, I thought. Ignore the ears. Instead, I focused on muscles, kept the pain high but allowed movement. I could touch, I could feel. I doubt anyone saw me, but if they had, they would have seen a burnt figure rising from the ashes, staring up at the moon. I wandered through the desert, inviting the pain into my body. I stepped on rocks, thorns. It didn't matter. The wind fanned the pain, powering me forward. The more I walked, the more it hurt. and the more I could keep going. Air forced its way into my lungs, letting me scream. And so I did. I howled at the moon like a wounded animal. Yo, yo, yo. Time became meaningless. Days didn't start or end. They blurred together. Reality and hallucination blended. I chased fragments of thoughts, created new words that even a burned mouth could shape. Words I forgot in seconds or hours. It made no difference. I imagined others burning like me. Figures danced at the edge of my vision, graceful movements, trailing smoke into the sky, small lights flickering out. I wept for them. I laughed with them, and all the while, I endured. That became the norm. I'd fall to my knees and stay motionless. I became a vessel for whatever thoughts broke through. Vowels slipped past cracked lips. Maybe a prayer. The memory that stays with me most vividly is kneeling in that sand, eyes closed, yet certain I wasn't in this world anymore. I'd entered one of flame, worshipping an ocean of molten steel. Just another dead soul left to suffer. Yo, yo, yo. The burning angels danced. The sea of pain embraced me. Heat became comfort. I had crossed over to a place where pain was life, and the absence of it was unbearable. I'd changed, adapted. I was complete. I was home. When I opened my eyes, they were waiting, a dozen others covered in black ink like me. They had adapted too, tall, scarred, and unhinged. They had seen other worlds, other horrors, and like me, they were thankful. They were my kin, born in agony, forged in fire. Ecstasy turned to unrelenting horror. Time froze. I entered a kind of eternal stasis, where stillness was the only sane option. I understood the first humans who had warmed themselves by fire. I had moved beyond life, watching it from the other side, but something within me still clung to being human. I wasn't ready to fully let go. Not yet. Still, it was tempting. A life without fear or need. Maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. Then, a single drop of water. I didn't notice the first one, but as the rain built, the flames faded. I'd suffered so long that the absence of pain felt like sickness. All the parts of myself I had forgotten returned. Vision, hearing, taste, each one more overwhelming than the last. I cried, begged the sky to take me back, but I'd forgotten the right words. My damaged mind was reforming. The sky couldn't hear me. I couldn't reach it. I lay there for hours, trying to dream myself back to the place I belonged. But it was gone. My car had been towed. People had searched, but never found me. I thought I'd been missing for a few days. It had been 16. They thought I'd been kidnapped. Or worse. And for the second time in less than a year, Sammy watched me come back from the dead. The treatment was declared too dangerous. They never gave details. Maybe it was my comments about inked angels. Or maybe my wish to set myself ablaze again. Either way, they used the kill switch. I coughed up a metal-like glob. They placed it in a dish and transferred it into a nitrogen tank, marked with a blue sunflower. Seeing it outside of me was strange. It had become part of who I was. Losing it felt like losing an organ, but nothing felt different. My thoughts were the same. The same problems remained. Only now, when I thought of fire, I didn't know whether to fear it or miss it. Probably both. At least I didn't have to worry about hurting anyone else. I was still on paid leave. I moved in with Sammy for a while, just for a change of scenery. I met new people, grounded myself. It's easy to lose track of life when your mind's in 1,000 places. But sometimes, all you need is a simple gesture, a kind word, a cool drink. The small things help. Eventually, I returned home. I went back to work, found a new apartment. No bathtub. I started engaging with people again, kept my eyes on the road when I stopped at red lights. I had moved beyond pain. Once you've known what I've known, everything else feels muted. And if it came again, I wouldn't resist. I've already survived the worst. That was years ago. Life looks different now. I'm engaged. New town. Same company. New role. I got a dog. But still, on the darkest nights, I remember. I picture those inked beings watching from afar, waiting for me to remember, waiting for me to return. I worry that a part of me is still out there, that someday I'll snap and I can't tell what's worse, being paralyzed by the fear of it or secretly wanting to go back. Like my cousin, I don't believe in hell. I don't think suffering lasts forever. But sometimes, when it rains, I miss the fire. I woke up from a coma, but I'm not sure what's real anymore. A few years ago, I was in university. I had a habit of drinking. Nothing extreme in my mind. But I never thought it would cause any real damage. I was wrong. My parents are very traditional because of their religious beliefs. Thankfully, I was able to move to another city for my studies, which gave me more freedom. But that also meant I started drinking even more. My younger sister Beatrice knew about it, but never told our parents. We always kept each other's secrets. My memory is unclear from that time, so I'll share what others have told me. One night I was at a party at a friend's place and drank much more than usual. I needed to get home and had my car with me. So despite knowing it was dangerous, I decided to drive. I offered a ride to my friend Mike, who lived nearby. I'd driven drunk before and nothing bad ever happened. So I figured it would be the same this time. But it wasn't. For reasons still unclear, I lost control and drove off a bridge. The car plunged into the river below. That night, I suffered serious brain damage from the crash and from being underwater for several minutes. Mike got out of the hospital in a couple of weeks, but I never woke up. Doctors said I was in a deep coma and might stay that way for years, maybe forever. My family was devastated. Beatrice was still in high school, and my parents had placed high hopes on me. They were willing to do anything to bring me back, but there wasn't much they could actually do. So I stayed that way, unconscious, for nearly 4 years. My parents visited often, always with the same gloomy expressions. They didn't want Mike visiting me, but he tried anyway. Nurses caught him more than once, sneaking in to see me. That pattern changed one day when my mom showed up at the hospital, unusually cheerful. She said she had found a way to fix everything. My dad and Beatrice were worried, afraid she might be losing her mind or even considering something drastic, but nothing happened. And soon, things went back to normal. She never explained what that moment was about. A few weeks later, I suddenly woke up. No warning signs, no gradual progress. Just opened my eyes like it was a normal morning. Even the doctors were surprised. They said it happens sometimes, but I could tell they were puzzled. It wasn't expected. I had to stay in the hospital for further monitoring, just to make sure everything was really okay. My family was thrilled. Beatrice rushed to tell me all about the past 4 years, and even shared some secrets, like the fact she had a girlfriend, Vanessa. Our parents didn't know, and for good reason. They'd try everything to break them apart. But something about my mom's behavior felt off. She smiled, but something in her seemed distant. While recovering, I noticed some strange things. Despite years of being bedridden, my body didn't feel weak. I actually felt refreshed. I didn't get hungry even when meals were late. I couldn't sleep, so I would pretend. My hands would tremble slightly and often. Randomly, I'd feel a chill spread through me like I was freezing, with a strange metallic taste in my mouth, but it would vanish in seconds. Once I was cleared to leave the hospital, I wanted to talk to Mike. I wasn't supposed to go out yet, so I lied and said I wanted to walk around the city to see what had changed. I had already messaged Mike and he was eager to meet in person. When I arrived at the cafe he suggested, he stood up and hugged me tightly. "Oh my, thank God, you're actually alive." His words made me feel uneasy. I guess I am, I replied. We talked for an hour or two, mostly about his life over the past few years. Then he asked, "Do you think you'll ever drink again?" I haven't touched alcohol since that night. I wasn't sure how to answer. Rationally, I knew I shouldn't, but I didn't feel afraid. After a moment, I replied with a joke. "Well, I haven't had any alcohol these past few years either." He caught my hesitation, but laughed anyway. As it got late, we wrapped up, and he headed home. I didn't. His question stuck with me. I went to a bar. I ordered a shot of vodka. I stared at it, expecting fear, but nothing came, so I drank it. Strangely, it didn't burn like I remembered. After a few minutes, I felt nothing. I ordered another shot. Still no effect. That didn't make sense. Even before the coma, 2 shots would start to hit me. Now, after 4 years, I felt nothing. I decided to go home. It was a long walk. When I arrived, my parents were upset that I was late. I told them I'd gone to Leo's Burgers, a place from my high school days. My dad corrected me. It had shut down last year. Then my mom asked if I had been with Mike. I froze. She left the room silently. I expected yelling, but there was none. She looked angry, but said nothing. My dad gave me the lecture I was waiting for, then went to check on her. Beatrice gave me a familiar look, sad and apologetic. She always did that when I was in trouble, like she wished she could take the heat for me. That night I went to bed and pretended to sleep. Hours later I heard my door creak open, then close, then faint whispers in the living room. I recognized my mother's voice. She began to hum softly. A strange smell filled the air, smoky, with something like rotten eggs and blood. It was faint, but I noticed. Eventually, she stopped. Silence returned. I wasn't sure it even happened. Maybe I imagined it. The doctors did say my brain was damaged. The next morning, I tried to bring it up, but before I could, she cheerfully said, "Good morning," acting like nothing unusual happened. I dropped it. Maybe I was just imagining things. My dad was still annoyed, which oddly made me feel better. At least, something seemed normal. I tried messaging Mike to talk about everything, but he didn't reply. Later, I asked Beatrice if she'd noticed anything odd about Mom that night. She said no, a few Days later, I got a message from an old university friend. Mike had died of a heart attack. That hit hard, and I instantly remembered Mom's strange behavior that night. It had been a Sunday, my parents' usual day for church. I asked Beatrice to help me go through Mom's belongings. She didn't really believe anything was wrong, but agreed anyway. While searching, I found a book titled Alternative Methods of Prayer for the Sick. It had a dark, worn cover, like an old Bible. What about this one? I asked. Looks really boring, she said. Yeah, but the sick, like me. Ugh, fine. The pages were thin and yellowed. At first, it was full of vague spiritual advice, clearly made to comfort desperate people. But the deeper we went, the weirder it got. Soon, there were strange symbols and text I didn't recognize. I tried comparing them to languages online. None matched. More pages were filled with those symbols. Eventually, the entire book was unreadable. One page showed a painting of people dancing around a standing skeleton. Another showed a figure stabbing someone in the chest. The attacker had the head of a goat. Beatrice stepped back, visibly shaken. I didn't know what to say. Finally, I muttered, "Let's just stop messing with Mom's stuff." She paused, then nodded. We carefully put everything back. I'm making this video because I honestly don't know what's going on. With me, with Beatrice, with Dad, with Mom. I don't understand it. And I think I'm scared. I'm a psychologist. I reported a client, but now I'm the one being investigated. She's in the walls, he said. I hesitated. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I've had clients say bizarre things before, and they've often turned out to be simple misunderstandings. You think I can't tell the difference between reality and imagination? He asked, a hint of irritation in his voice. I blinked, remembering something from an earlier session. He had shared some strange stories, like claiming to be a master of black magic. He talked about curses he'd supposedly cast. I had gently questioned those claims, curious to see how real these beliefs felt to him. Maybe he picked up on my doubts. I'm just wondering, what exactly do you mean by "she's in the walls"? I asked, keeping my voice even and friendly. It could still be something ordinary. A rodent, a gecko. After I killed her, I hid her body behind the walls. Then I sealed them up. Okay, that left little room for ambiguity. You're saying the woman from your nightmares, you actually killed her? I asked, as I quietly opened WhatsApp on my laptop and typed a message to the clinic manager. Potentially dangerous client, be ready for emergency response. He nodded. The nightmares began the day after I bricked her into the wall. He then began sharing what he hadn't said during last week's session. He described how, from the first moment he saw her, someone who worked nearby, he felt a strong reaction. It wasn't love, more like a twisted mix of fascination and revulsion. He became obsessed, followed her, learned her routine, her contacts, where she went. One morning, during one of her usual runs, he saw her on a quiet path. With no plan, he struck her from behind with a rock he'd been carrying. She collapsed. He lifted her and placed her in his nearby car. No witnesses, just the early morning silence. Still hoping this was some elaborate story, I tried to see another angle. Maybe he just wanted attention. Maybe he was testing me. The way he described moving a body so easily, it didn't sound realistic. Maybe he was just trying to provoke a reaction. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because of the nightmares. They won't stop." I tried working through them without context, but I realized you need to know the truth to actually help me. His eyes were sincere. In that moment, I believed him. There was no more doubting or analyzing. He meant every word. Client just confessed to murder. Possibly dangerous. Please send police now. I typed on WhatsApp while pretending to take session notes. At this point, confidentiality no longer applied. Legally, I had to report it. "Let's talk about the nightmares," I said, trying to buy time. "You said they were intense, that you woke up screaming. What exactly did you see?" He hadn't shared this detail before. Her face, right in front of mine, at first terrified. The same look she had when I cut her throat. Then she would smile, a cruel, wicked smile. She was an evil woman. I resisted the urge to react. "You felt she was evil, even in your dreams." I silently congratulated myself for staying composed. He slit her throat, and she was the evil one. She was always evil. I saw it clearly. I did what had to be done, what the world needed me to do. He smiled and winked at me. My stomach turned. That wink, like we shared a secret. I said nothing as he continued. He spoke for another 5 minutes before the police arrived. He claimed he could see a dark energy around her. That's how he knew she was bad. He'd followed her to confirm it. Said she was condescending, manipulative, and a bully. When he said bully, it was like the word itself caused him pain. I made a note. Strong reaction to word bully. Possible past trauma. He disposed of her body in an abandoned building. He gave me the name of the place. I knew it. It was near where I lived. I'd seen multiple shops fail there. Nothing lasted long. The location wasn't great, but it wasn't cursed either. Yet it had that reputation. Now it was being sold for redevelopment. "But I hear her," he said, fears in his eyes. "At night, she scratches the walls. I know she's not really there. I know where she is, but the scratching never stops." The door opened. 2 police officers walked in. Thankfully, they didn't announce themselves or make a scene. I'd worried my client might react badly, maybe even become violent if startled. They handcuffed him and let him out. As he turned to leave, he looked at me, calm, satisfied, as if he knew this was coming, as if he wasn't afraid. He smiled again. My skin crawled. Later, at the station, I gave a detailed statement about everything he told me. When I got home, I showered, poured a glass of wine, and tried to move on. I slept poorly. Flashes of his smile and wink haunted my dreams. So did a scratching sound I couldn't place. The next day, groggy, I got a call to return to the station. "How did you know Anita?" the officer asked. Not her real name. I frowned. I only knew one Anita. Why were they bringing her up? "She used to be my boss," I said. "A long time ago. Less than a year. Did you part on good terms?" I hesitated. Something felt off. A cold feeling settled in my chest. No, she was hard to work with. When I quit, she got angry. Even threatened me. "But why are you asking?" The officer looked me straight in the eye. "Did you kill Anita?" I stared, shocked. "What? No, Wait, are you saying the woman in the wall was Anita? He's saying he doesn't know what you're talking about, that you hypnotized him, that he's had nightmares ever since. What? I just blinked at him, stunned. Right now, it's your word against his, the officer continued. But here's the thing. He has no link to Anita. No calls, no texts, no sightings. You, however, he sighed. You worked for her. You clearly disliked her. We found some of your social media posts. Vague, but definitely targeting her. Social media. I never posted anything about her. I protested. She scared me. She was powerful in our industry and had a long history of bullying others. I kept quiet to avoid problems. The officer showed me his phone. It was a profile under my name, my face, but I had never seen it. This account's been active for 2 years, he said, and you never knew about it. I took the phone and examined it. It has 43 followers. None of them are my friends. How was I supposed to find it? I don't sit around Googling myself. He took the phone back, expression unchanged. The next 2 hours of questioning were intense. I gave a full account of my time working under Renita, the way she tried to sabotage my career, how she eventually failed. Her behavior had become too well known. I even mentioned my therapy sessions afterward. The investigator said he might subpoena my therapist's notes. I didn't mind. I had never said anything extreme in therapy, especially with a fellow professional. We often move in the same circles. I had to be cautious. My one possible alibi, a doorbell camera, but it had been offline the night Anita was murdered. I hadn't noticed until now. I only checked footage when something unusual happened. Taking a walk in the park that night. That's what I told the police. They canvassed the area, asked around, checked for cameras and dash cams. Nothing. It became obvious. I was being framed. That client had planned Anita's murder for years and had set me up just as long. Everything looked bad. My history with her, my knowledge of where she was buried, how she was killed, the fake social media account, its IP address linked to my Wi-Fi. Of course, I had set a lazy password, Wi-Fi password. He denied ever mentioning Anita or any murder, said he'd only returned for help with nightmares, that I had hypnotized him during our last session. It wasn't hypnosis, it was EMDR, a valid therapeutic technique. Eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. Just guided eye movements to help access trauma. It wasn't suggestion, it wasn't mind control, but he twisted everything. He told the police I made his nightmares worse, said he didn't even remember the last session. Just that he felt disoriented until the police came. It's terrifying how quickly someone can destroy your life. One day, things are fine. The next, you're a murder suspect. I used to think that being innocent would be enough, that the truth would surface quickly, and I'd be cleared. But the legal system doesn't work that way. Things only got worse from there. The night I returned home after being questioned by the police, I finished off a bottle of wine. I lay in bed, hoping to escape, if only for a few hours, from the nightmare my life was becoming. That's when I heard it. A scraping sound. Then again, something scratching. My heartbeat quickened and I held my breath. Carefully I pressed my ear to the wall. The sound was sharp and clear, scratching like nails on plaster. It felt like it was coming from just behind the wall, inches from where I was listening. I quickly pulled away, limbs heavy, and sat back down on the bed. Then came another sound, a whisper. I couldn't be sure. It was too soft, hidden behind the scraping. I told myself I was imagining things. The stress, the investigation, it was all getting to me. Maybe the wine hadn't helped either. I thought about going to a hotel for the night, but the police had told me not to leave. I didn't want to make it seem like I was running, so I stayed. I got back in bed and shut my eyes, repeating that none of it was real. The scratching didn't stop. Sleep was impossible. A few painful minutes passed, and then I began to hear humming. Low at first, then louder, turning into a kind of static. It reminded me of the hum from a white noise machine. It grew louder until it drowned out the scratching completely. I decided then I had to leave, no matter the consequences. But I couldn't move. I was completely frozen. I couldn't even open my eyes. I panicked, trying with every bit of strength I had to break free. I was screaming inside, but my body wouldn't respond. Then came the dream, or what I believe was a dream. Anita appeared behind my closed eyelids. She was kneeling, begging. Then my hand, my own, reached for her. I grabbed her arm. In it, I held a rock. I struck her in the head. She dropped, limp, like a puppet with its strings cut. I stood over her. I was smiling. In my other hand, a knife gleamed. I knelt and pressed the blade to her throat. I couldn't stop myself. Couldn't stop the motion. Couldn't wipe the smile from my face. Suddenly, something rushed at me from the side. I fell. "You killed me," someone screamed. I looked around, wildly. A swirling black cloud, full of energy, full of rage. A flash of a grin inside it. "You killed me, and you'll pay." I threw my arms up, trying to block whatever it was. And then, silence. Everything was gone. The dark shape, the voice, gone. But Anita's body remained. A pool of blood spread beneath her neck. I looked down. My hand still held the bloody knife. I woke up screaming. My shirt clung to me, soaked in sweat. A few hours later, the police came back. They had found my fingerprints on Anita's arm, exactly where I had seen myself grab her in the dream. I don't know what's real anymore, but I know I didn't kill her. I remember that night clearly. I was at home. Later, I went out for a short walk in the park. I was trying to stay active. But now, with the nightmares, the phantom posts, the scratching sounds, even if he set me up, how could he manipulate my dreams? How could he have touched my walls? They arrested me. I spent weeks in custody before a judge finally granted me bail. House arrest until my trial. No flight risk, clean record, stable job. They said I was fortunate. It didn't feel that way. During that time, I received one message from him. Just one. "Do you know what's real?" I froze, reading it. Then, filled with anger, I tossed my phone onto the couch. Was this revenge? Was he doing all this because I once questioned his grip on reality? Did he seek therapy just to set this up? Was any of it ever real? I lunged for my phone again, realizing I should capture the message as proof. But it was gone, completely erased. I started to question everything. my sanity, my memory, my own mind. Now, I'm stuck at home. 2 months, maybe longer if court proceedings drag. My life ruined, my name stained, and every night the scratching continues. The nightmares never stop. Anita's face haunts me, twisting with fury or pain, sometimes both. And then the client's smile, always present. The dreams feel too real, like memories I didn't know I had. Sometimes I wonder if I should just confess, claim I did it, plead guilty. Maybe they'll give me the death penalty, because I don't think I can live like this anymore. The day my brother died, something else came back instead. I was only 12 years old when Adam passed away. His death is burned into my memory, a constant reminder of my failure to save him. We were playing deep in the woods behind our home, far beyond where we were allowed. That was the day everything changed. Hey Max, do you think gorillas could talk? Like, if they really tried? Such a strange question. But Adam was 10. It made sense coming from him. No, I said, staring up through the trees. If they could, they already would have. Well, what if? Whoa, look at that! Adam shouted, pointing towards something ahead. I followed his gaze and saw what looked like a ravine. A long, deep cut into the ground. For 2 young boys, it felt like discovering a new world. Adam ran straight to it. I followed more cautiously. We stood at the edge, peering into the dark. It had to be at least 30 or 40 feet deep. Even with the sunlight filtering through the trees, we couldn't see the bottom. Max, get a rock. I want to see how. Then it happened. The ground beneath Adam gave way. His expression shifted instantly. Panic in his eyes, all the color draining from his face. He flailed, trying to grab onto anything, but there was nothing, and I didn't move. Shock froze me. I just watched as Adam disappeared over the edge. If I'd reacted faster, maybe I could have saved him, but I didn't. And that moment lives with me every day. As he fell, time seemed to slow. His scream barely registered before I heard it. A sickening thud that still echoes in my nightmares. I was numb. 1 second, he was next to me. The next, he was gone. Adam, are you okay? I called, voice trembling. There was only silence. Until there wasn't. Just as I turned to run for help, I heard something faint rise from the ravine, a wet, tearing sound, like flesh being ripped from bone. I stood frozen, confused, horrified. Then, silence again, and then a voice. My ex. It sounded like Adam, but something was off. The way it said my name, the spacing between the letters, the strange tone. It didn't sound natural. It was like something was trying to learn his voice. I couldn't respond. I couldn't move. I just stared into the trench as a new sound emerged. A slow, heavy scuffling. Something was climbing up. Something large. Then I saw it. A hand appeared, gripping the edge. Then another. A head rose above the dirt. Adam pulled himself up, dusted his pants, and grinned. But I knew, instantly, that it wasn't really him. He looked the same, except for some dried blood near his mouth. But the eyes, there was something wrong in them. A deep, unsettling darkness. What's wrong, Max? Why didn't you say anything? I thought you left, he asked. How? What? He said, tilting his head like a curious animal. I felt cornered, How did you climb back up? I watched you fall. You shouldn't be here. Adam just smiled again. It wasn't that far. I didn't get hurt, see? He spun around, as if to prove it. Before I could say more, he turned toward home. It's getting late. We should head back. And he took off running, like nothing had happened. Our parents didn't notice anything strange. Maybe they thought he was just growing up. But I saw the differences. Adam, who once hated bees, ate every bite. He brushed his teeth without complaint. He even wore his glasses without protest. But the worst part, what happened at night? I couldn't bear to sleep in the same room as him. I begged our parents to let me stay on the couch or even their floor. They said no. Every night I'd hide under my covers, hoping he wouldn't come near me. But that hope was always short-lived. One night I heard something move across the floor. Then I felt him standing over me. I didn't need to see him. I could sense it. He was watching. Warm, foul breath crept through the blanket and into my ear. It smelled rotten, like death. And then he whispered, I know that you know. Keep quiet, and I won't have to hurt you. Then he scurried away, back to his side of the room. I didn't sleep that night, or the nights after. The exhaustion took its toll. My grades slipped, friendships faded, people noticed. My parents took me to the doctor. He said I needed sleep, prescribed melatonin, and for a while it helped. Until that night, I woke suddenly. I knew right away. Something was wrong. Adam was standing right over me, motionless, silent. His face was blank. His eyes looked dead, like the glassy stare of a fish. I couldn't move. I couldn't even blink. Then he dropped to the floor. I heard him crawl, couldn't see where he went. Suddenly his face appeared at the foot of my bed, unblinking, staring. Then he vanished again, this time crawling under my bed. I listened as his nails scraped the floor beneath me, waiting for his hand to grab me, but it never came. Instead, he lay there, breathing heavily beneath my head. Then I heard it, a gurgled whisper. I'll come back for you. You'll end up like him. I stayed frozen in bed for hours. Eventually, despite the fear and the adrenaline, I must have passed out. Next thing I remember, Mom was shaking me awake. Max, where's your brother? As my mind caught up, I pointed under the bed. Mom checked, and when she came back up, her face was red with anger. Max, this isn't funny. Your brother is missing. I should have been scared. I should have cared. But all I felt was relief. The next day, they found Adam's body, still lying at the bottom of that ravine, exactly where he had fallen more than a month earlier. The coroner was confused. The level of decay suggested he'd been dead for weeks, not hours. To this day, I can't explain what happened. Maybe it was a hallucination. Maybe something else climbed out that day. But I know what I saw, and I believe whatever took Adam's place is still out there. Last night I stayed at my parents' house. I don't know why. Maybe I needed closure. Went back to the ravine, and I swear I heard Adam's voice call my name from below. It's still with me, in my head, and I think I don't have much time left. Soon, I'll join him in the dark. The winter guest disappeared overnight. Then, 3 smiling men came looking for him. I worked as a winter caretaker at an unused lodge in Wyoming. The lodge sat halfway up a mountain, 6 miles from the nearest town, 10 miles from the closest gas station, and probably 15 from anyone who could hear a scream. The owners closed it for the season and hired me to keep watch for a few months. My tasks were simple: clear the driveway after snowstorms, prevent pipes from freezing, and make sure no one broke in. Easy money. It snowed nearly every other day. Most mornings were bathed in that faint, pinkish blue light, typical of high-altitude winters. Everything was quiet, as if the world was holding its breath. The floorboards creaked even when I wasn't moving. I woke up every night around 3:12 a.m. without reason. At first, I thought it was just the cold. Days blended together. I ate the same meals, walked the same empty hallways. Fake pine garlands still hung over the windows. Leftover decorations from last Christmas. They never moved. Nothing did. The entire place felt frozen in time. Then, one evening, headlights appeared. A battered SUV pulled into the snowy parking lot. A man climbed out. Medium height, a thick beard, heavy winter coat, and a noticeable limp. I met him on the porch after opening the side door. He didn't give his name, but asked, "Mind if I stay a night or two?" Got turned around. There's a storm coming. His voice was dry but watchful, the kind of person who scans exits as soon as they enter a room. Something about him made me tense up. Maybe it was the way his eyes never stopped darting, or how he kept his gloves on inside. Still, I gave him a room. The next morning, he ate breakfast in silence, just oatmeal and black coffee. He thanked me and went back upstairs. That was the last time I saw him. At noon, I knocked on his door to check in. No answer. When I opened it, the room was empty. No bags, no coat, bed neatly made, like he'd never been there. I stood in the hallway for a full minute, staring at the carpet. Had I imagined him? The dirty plate was still in the sink. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every floorboard groaned like a sigh. The silence felt different, not passive anymore, but alert, watching. The snow outside wasn't just heavy. It felt thick, almost solid, like stepping into it might trap you forever. Then, around 3 a.m., I saw a glow. Fire. I rushed downstairs and saw the gazebo out back fully ablaze. 3 men stood around it. I opened the back door and shouted, "Hey, what are you doing?" One turned toward me, his face flickering in the firelight. "Give us the man who came last night," he said, calmly. "We know he's here." "He's gone," I shouted. "He's not here anymore." They didn't move or speak again. They just stood there. I grabbed the shotgun from under my bed and stepped outside. Crunching snow beneath my boots, wind biting my ears, heart racing. As I got closer, I realized they weren't men. Not anymore. They were mannequins. Human-sized, dressed in winter jackets and gloves. Painted faces with bright, exaggerated smiles. One held an axe. It wasn't plastic. I kicked one. It fell stiffly. No reaction. I stumbled back inside, grabbed the fire extinguisher, and returned outside. When I looked again, the mannequins were gone. The gazebo still burned. I put out the fire and didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I called the local sheriff's department and explained everything. The visitor, the fire, The mannequins. There was a pause. Then the deputy said, "Sir, we sent an officer up there 4 days ago. The place was empty. No car, no footprints. It looked abandoned." I blinked. "I've been here the entire time." Another pause. Then, "Mister, you called us 2 weeks ago saying you were leaving early. Said you were driving back to Montana. We have it on record." My skin went cold. "I didn't make that call," I whispered. The deputy's tone softened. "Are you sure you're okay, sir?" I hung up. I left it that day. I didn't pack much, just got in my truck and drove until I stopped shaking. I don't even remember the lodge disappearing in my rearview mirror. I didn't want to. A week later, I visited my mom in Billings. She asked for help sorting old boxes. We sat in the living room, surrounded by dusty photo albums, childhood drawings, and broken ornaments. I was finally starting to feel calmer. Then I saw the photo. Me, about 5 years old, holding my mom's hand outside an old clothing store. The picture was yellowed, with the sun glare and a crooked smile on my face. Behind us, in the shop window, were 3 mannequins. Winter coats, gloves. Each wore that same painted smile. I stared until my vision blurred. Mom kept talking, but I wasn't listening. They had been there all along, watching. I don't know if what happened at the lodge was real, but I know they saw me. And they smiled. The night my friend brought something to life. "Matthew, what is this?" My friend Matthew had invited me over to help with a project he'd been working on for weeks. I hadn't seen him in that time, so I assumed it was something personal and agreed right away. But now, standing in his basement, staring at the covered shape on the table, I wished I hadn't. "It's what I've been working on," he said. "And what exactly is that?" I asked, annoyed. "Don't you remember? A few weeks ago, we watched that movie and I said I wanted to try something similar." I narrowed my eyes. Was he joking? Or did he really expect me to recall a random movie from weeks ago? "No, Matt, I don't. Why don't you remind me what I'm looking at?" He sighed. "We were watching those old horror films. The one with the scientist and his monster. You joked about how cool it would be if someone could actually do that. I said maybe I could, given time. Well, this is it." He smiled, looking down at the table. It took me a moment to remember the film he meant. Frankenstein. I was really high that night. Why would you take that seriously? I cut myself off as I slowly recognized the shape. "Matt, what exactly is under the blanket?" "It's the monster from the movie." Well, as close as I could get. I'm no expert. What I saw matched Matt's description. The Frankenstein monster. But it wasn't green. It was a patchwork of skin tones, ages, and damage. A black forearm from a teenager. An older, scarred white chest. The fingers on the right hand were mismatched, different sizes and colors. The face was a jigsaw of at least 5 different people. I stared, horrified, and without thinking grabbed Matt by his shirt collar, pushing him against the wall. "What the hell did you do?" I yelled. "I made what you asked. The monster from the movie," he replied, glancing between me and the table, hoping I'd understand. "Where did you get these parts?" I asked, starting to realize. "From the hospital," he said. "I work there, and when there are accidental deaths or organ donations, I take some things." He smiled. "This isn't stuff, Matt. These are parts of people." I dropped his collar and paste, covering the creature with the blanket. You said it would be cool if someone built it. So I did. Now I just have to bring it to life. Do you hear yourself? You sound insane. That was a movie, Matt. It's not real. Well, then I guess you're not helping. Fine, I'll finish it myself. He threw a tantrum, uncovered the head and chest, and began pushing nails into the rotting flesh. I stared, shocked and disgusted. How could he be so casual about this? As Matt attached wires and cords to the nails, I stood up and moved toward the stairs, ready to leave. I slammed the basement door behind me, then headed to the front door. Outside, a storm was starting, rain hitting the windows hard. Suddenly, the basement door burst open and footsteps came running. "Where are you going?" Matt asked, breathing hard. "Home, Matt. I'm going home. But I just finished connecting the wires and the extension cord." "Matt, you're crazy. Those are dead people's parts on your table. Do you really think some wires and an extension cord will do anything?" "You said you wanted someone to try," he argued. "It was a movie. It wasn't real." Matt's eyes burned with anger as he slammed the basement door and approached me. "You know what? Forget you. I spent weeks on this, and this is how you repay me. Repay you for stealing dead people's body parts. I worked hard, and what happens when you plug it in and nothing happens?" The storm grew louder, heavy rain, thunder shaking the house. "I don't need this. Leave if you're going to be like this." "I am leaving, and when your experiment fails, don't come looking for me." Suddenly, thunder crashed so loud, the lights flickered and went out. We were plunged into darkness. Great. Now the power's out and we're both upset. Matt headed to the kitchen to check the drawers. I stood by the front door, the storm raging outside. 10 minutes passed without Matt or the power returning. Worried he might be hurt outside, I grabbed my jacket to check on him. Then I heard footsteps from downstairs, loud, frantic. Quietly, I crept to the basement door and slowly opened it. I shone my flashlight down the stairs, illuminating the carpet. The footsteps grew louder, but I saw nothing. I called out, "Is someone down here?" "Matt, did you come back in through the hatch?" Matt's basement had a hatch leading outside, so I thought maybe he was hurt and tried to get in that way. I moved deeper into the basement, shining my light around. That's when I saw it. The blanket on the floor, the empty table. My heart stopped. The corpse, the stitched-together monster with nails and wires, was gone. The cord that had connected it to the electrical box was missing too. The box sat on the floor, still plugged in. When the power surged, some electricity must have energized it. Then, from the shadows behind the wall leading to the back room, I saw a figure. The outline was wrong, so wrong. I focused the flashlight and saw 5 fingers slowly retreating into the darkness. I let out a small scream and covered my mouth. At that moment, the front door swung open, and Matt's voice followed. "The breaker's shot. I can't fix it." I didn't respond, staring into the dark. Matt came down the stairs and looked at me. "Why are you down here?" I swallowed hard and said, "It's down here, moving." Matt's eyes widened with a mix of fear and excitement. He silently gestured for me to follow him upstairs, and I nodded, slowly climbing behind him. As I moved, I caught the shadow slip from behind the wall and stare at me. Its eyes were mismatched, 2 different shapes and colors staring back. The huge form filled the flashlight's beam. Its stitched skin leaked blood and bile. It breathed, moaned, and every step I took back, it moved closer. I reached the top of the stairs as it reached the bottom step. Once I stepped onto the kitchen floor, it began climbing after us. I slammed the door shut just as it started its ascent. From behind the door came loud banging, slams, and confused screams. We looked at each other, horrified, amazed. Matthew's creation was alive, confused, and angry. I heard it almost stumble back down the stairs as it moved into the basement. I looked over at Matt, who was holding his trembling hands. Slowly, I locked the basement door and stepped away, reaching for Matt's arm. "We need to leave. Now," I whispered, keeping my voice low to avoid alerting the thing below us. He didn't respond, just stared at his hands and nodded. I wasn't sure what Matt was thinking. Maybe nothing at all, just frozen in shock seeing his creation moving instead of lying still on the table. Either way, I knew we had to go. The thing was growing more agitated downstairs, banging and throwing things around. It tried to scream several times, but all that came out were muffled, wet sounds. "Matt, now!" I grabbed his shoulder, snapping him out of his trance. He nodded, and we moved slowly toward the front of the house. I reached for my car keys when a loud crash came from below. Then, silence. We exchanged looks, waiting for more noise, but nothing followed. Matt's face went pale. "The hatch," he whispered. "Did I lock it?" "You've got to be kidding me, Matt," I hissed. Taking a shaky breath, I rubbed my forehead. "Okay, we just need to get to my car. That should be fine." I grasped the door handle, ready to open it, but a sudden feeling of dread stopped me. Just being near the door unsettled me. I let go and stepped back. Matt looked confused at first, but then he seemed to feel it too. We both listened. From behind the door, harsh breathing could be heard. Matt backed away until he was in the center of the living room. I stayed put, hoping the breathing would move away, but it didn't. Occasionally, it pushed against the door, making the wood creak as if it might break through any second. I turned to Matt to discuss a plan when a loud pounding hit behind me. The creature was getting more restless. Its muffled screams grew louder with each hit, soon overpowering the sound of the storm outside. "Fuck, what do we do now?" I paced the room as the banging intensified. Matt looked down at his hands, fiddling nervously before standing and heading toward the kitchen. "Where are you going? Have you thought of something?" I followed. "I'm going to go outside and distract it." "Excuse me. What did you just say?" "I'll head out the back door and draw its attention. You make a run for your car and get out." "That's not happening. I'm not letting you face that thing alone." He cut me off. "Look, this was my stupid idea. I'm the one who brought you here, and it backfired. Let me fix it by getting you out safely." "Okay." I stared at him as the pounding became harder to ignore. I wanted to argue, but knew it was useless. Matt was many things, but selfish wasn't one of them. Nothing I said would change his mind. I pulled him into an unthinking hug. "Promise me, you'll be okay, all right?" He chuckled, pulling away. "Of course, man. Who else will watch horror movies with me?" We shared a brief laugh before he headed toward the back door. "You'll hear when I leave. As soon as I do, run to your car and go. I'll call when I'm safe." I nodded. He smiled and disappeared into the basement. Moments later, I heard his yelling outside. The pounding on the front door stopped, and the creature grew quiet as Matt's voice moved to the back of the house, fading away. I quickly opened the door and ran to the driveway, jumping into my car. I paused, staring at the house before starting the engine and speeding off. I waited 3 days after that night, hoping for a call from Matt. Every second was tense. I expected either him or that thing to find me. I should have known he wouldn't call, but some part of me hoped for a different outcome. Last week I got a call from Matt's family. They told me he was found dead in his home. The police responded to noise complaints from neighbors and discovered Matt in the basement. According to the family, he was mutilated beyond recognition. The body was so damaged, they wouldn't allow the family to see it. The death was ruled a murder, but no suspect was found. The scene was scattered with fingerprints from deceased individuals, but I know who, or rather what, did it. Matt probably realized he wouldn't survive, but that doesn't make it easier to accept that he died because of me. I feel guilty. Matt created the monster and devised the plan, but I brought him into horror movies in the first place. I also have to accept it's still out there, somewhere. It's watching, waiting for me, ready to do what it did to Matt. All I can do is wait and listen. Listen for its breaths and pained moans as it roams, confused about why it's alive, wondering who made it and how to seek revenge.